taking this opportunity to say that our ports and airports are open for incoming and outbound cargo.
Nations all across the world are feeling the impact of COVID-19, but with careful measures by leaders, we can mitigate the effects. Hello and welcome to our Thursday edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Kingston. Within the next 30 minutes, we'll look at further measures by our government to contain the spread of COVID-19. We also look at the response to citizens to the COVID care program over the 8 days of its activation. You may log on to wecare.gov.jm to see if you qualify for any of the programs.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security has been working assiduously to help to contain the spread of the dreaded coronavirus COVID-19. And I believe that it is my duty as Minister to encourage employers and business operators to put the proper mechanisms in place to protect workers and customers and themselves. Workers are the most important part of any organization, and they must be given all the necessary information, tools that they require to ensure that they can utilize the best safety and health practices. During this period, workers might be required to be quarantined or isolated for an extended period. In these instances, we are recommending to our employers that you exercise discretion beyond the provision of the Holiday with Pay Act 1974. We are also imploring employers to consider making use of the provisions under the Flexi Work Arrangement 2014 in order to ensure that where possible, staff can work from home, creating far less risk factors. I believe that as a nation, we have a responsibility to work together for a healthy and safe work environment.
We now give you the latest update from our leaders in the fight against COVID-19.
Jamaica now has 143 confirmed cases of COVID-19. This follows 18 new additions over the last 24 hours. Of that number, 5 are males and 13 are females, ranging from 4 years old to 56 years old. 3 cases are contacts of a confirmed case. The other 15 are under investigation, and there is some suspicion that a number of them are linked to the call center in Portmore, but we are still investigating. 23 persons have recovered and been discharged, and 5 persons, unfortunately, have passed as a result of COVID-19. We have now tested some 1,424 samples, including the samples that were tested for severe acute respiratory infection. 143 of that number are confirmed positive, while 1,281 are confirmed negative cases. Of the 143 confirmed cases, to date, 52 are from Alarica, the call center in Portmore, St. Catherine. Just to say that the St. Catherine Health Department is actively following the situation at Alarica and are being provided with the additional support personnel to expedite their contact tracing efforts. In addition to the St. Catherine Health Department, the KSA, Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation area, and the Clarendon Health Department are also working to the extent that persons who work at Alarica are located in those parishes. Of the total number of staff on record at Alarica, numbering 787, 559 are from St. Catherine. We have made contact with 447. There are some challenges as it relates to 112 of those names because of addresses not being correct. We are continuing the efforts to locate those individuals. Their contacts, meaning the contacts of persons who work and who have been tested at Alarica, we have made contact with an additional 179 of their contacts in the parish. The testing continues. Mr. Speaker, In terms of the testing protocol, I know a number of questions have been asked about this. Just let me remind the House that in keeping with the testing protocol, specimen must be collected from and will be tested for COVID-19 for the following persons. This is the existing protocol, but let me just say that it is under review constantly as the phase of the virus expansion or spread continues. We adjust the protocol as we go along to co-opt more groups. All suspected cases, as per the case definition, are tested. All symptomatic contacts of confirmed COVID-19 cases, whether they display symptoms or not. All asymptomatic close contacts of confirmed COVID-19 cases, which is linked to the previous statement I made. All SARI cases for all hospitals. All admitted lower respiratory tract infection or pneumonia from all hospitals. All influenza-like illness cases. All healthcare workers who have been assessed to be at risk from exposure to COVID-19 cases. All symptomatic healthcare workers, irrespective of contact history, are tested. And this group essentially forms the core in terms of the targeted groups that are tested as a routine in order to determine the extent of the spread of the virus, to detect, to contain, and, of course, to treat. By Friday of this week, Mr. Speaker, we will add a second facility to do COVID-19 testing. This is at the National Public Health Lab, and this facility is now being installed. We expect that this will be able to do an additional 350 samples per 8-hour shift. So essentially, we will be in a position to more than double our testing capacity in terms of samples per day. And depending on whether we operate 1 or 2 shifts, we will adjust as the need arises. In terms of the mobile testing, we have retrofitted 5 mobile units, Mr. Speaker. Up to yesterday, 4 were deployed to the respective regions, and this is in aid of expanding the sampling collection and testing for COVID-19. As part of those expanded testing efforts, we will begin this Friday, April 17, 2020, to expand the mobile testing in 2 health regions, the Southeast Regional Authority and in the Northeast Regional Health Authority. 1 unit was actually based in Clarendon, and I actually visited the quarantine community where they were collecting samples a few days ago. That was the first one to be deployed. Subsequent to that, additional units have been deployed. The mobile units, Mr. Speaker, will enhance the sampling or collection of sampling. There is a protocol that guides whose sample will be collected. So we have trained the medtechs to up to 55 have volunteered to support or work with the mobile units. 2 days ago, 35 were trained, and they are to train the remaining numbers. And they will go out, they will provide the discussions or the counseling, if you will, for persons who are so interested. The samples will be collected, taken back into Kingston, and tested either at the National Influenza Lab or the National Public Health Lab. In terms of personal protective equipment, Mr. Speaker, with the threat of the COVID-19, the Ministry of Health has moved fairly swiftly with all the challenges of securing personal protective equipment globally because of the demand by all countries of the world. We have moved to ensure that we have adequate equipment, personal protective equipment, and to date, orders valuing over 1 billion Jamaican dollars have been made. Major items delivered to date include an additional 35 ventilators, 6 ICU beds, 50 physiological monitors, over 2.2 million PPE items, so that includes the N95 masks, the protective equipment. There are 2 national quarantine facilities in the Southeast Regional Health Authority, 1 in Western Region, but negotiations are taking place to add additional capacity. In terms of isolation facilities, Mr. Speaker, there are 22 hospitals with wards for COVID-19 patients, numbering approximately 232 COVID-19 beds ready for use, and up to this morning, there were 57 beds occupied, which means an additional 175 beds available. A further 41 beds, Mr. Speaker, are to be ready in Southern Region within 3 weeks, 10 to be available in Northeast Region as needed, and a further 3 to be ready in the Western Region. This means, Mr. Speaker, that of a total of 54 additional isolation beds in fairly short order, 286 within the next 3 weeks. In addition, the numbers of high dependency beds and ICU beds will continue to increase over time. This is where, of course, we have the very severe cases. Currently, 66 patients remain in isolation and 21 persons are in quarantine at government facilities. Mr. Speaker, we're pleased to report at this time that persons in isolation remain stable and there are no critically ill patients at this time.
Coronavirus cannot move around by itself. If we control our movement, we can control its spread. If you do not have urgent matters to attend to, stay at home.
There has been a tremendous response to the COVID allocation resources for employees care program since the launch on April 9. We review the take-up of the 7 components with Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark.
The government's care program launched on Thursday, the 9th of April, and by midnight at the end of the 9th of April, we had over 120,000 applications. I'm just going to use round numbers for this summary. And by the end of Monday, or by Monday afternoon, we had approximately 333,000 applications in total. Now, you will recall that the CARE program has a number of components, and one of the components is the compassionate grant that is geared towards those who are unemployed, those who are informally employed, elderly, and students over 18. And for the compassionate grant program, by yesterday afternoon, we would have had about approximately 277,000 applications. For the Set Cash program, which is a program designed to cater to those who would have lost their employment after the 10th of March, we had approximately just under 47,000 applications as at the end of yesterday. And for the General Grants program, which is geared towards various occupational groups that are targeted by the program, we had a total of about 8,000 applications up until yesterday afternoon. An application is successfully made once the TRN that is provided matches with the date of birth provided and the name provided, and all 3 of those variables are consistent with what Tax Administration Jamaica has on its database. Now, it's very important for that verification to take place. The funds that will be used to make these grant payments are taxpayer funds. They're funds that belong ultimately to you, the people. And it is very important that before someone can be eligible, we have to ensure that that TRN is a valid TRN. Now, there are persons, so when we say that we have had 333,000 applications up until yesterday afternoon, what we mean is that we have had 333,000 persons apply where their TRN matches their date of birth and matches their name. There are a minority of cases in relation to 333,000 where persons have tried to enter and to apply, and the system doesn't allow them to proceed because the TRN that they have entered does not match the name and the date of birth that Tax Administration Jamaica has in their system. The only way around that is to make a call to Tax Administration Jamaica and try to have that rectified. A confirmation number is issued for all of the components of the CARE program, and that is sent by text to the mobile number that is provided or by email to the email address that is provided. That reference number or confirmation number is a very important number and should be retained by applicants because it can be used to track the progress of applications through the website or for claiming the benefit if the benefit is to be claimed at a remittance outlet. Once eligibility is established and verification is completed, payment will be remitted to the remittance company, and to collect that payment, the applicant will have to provide to the remittance company a photo identification in the name of the applicant. They will need to be able to recall their TRN, and they will also have to provide the reference number that is sent electronically on confirmation of receipt of their application. With respect to the Set Cash grant, the Set Cash grant is for any person who lost their employment after the 10th of March, provided that that can be verified. The verification process will require the employers in those sectors to upload electronically a P45 form that verifies the persons who have been laid off, and that is very, very important. With respect to the general grants, the application is accepted once the TRN and the date of birth and the name are consistent with what Taxation Jamaica or Tax Administration Jamaica has on its database, and payment would be facilitated or made once the applicant's TRN is among the TRNs provided by the particular regulatory or registration authority that evidences that that person actually is in the occupation that they have applied in. The CARE application is an independent process, and then we'll have an independent database provided by Tourism Product Development Company, and there'll be a check between the TRNs in the application and the TRNs listed in the registrations, and those for which there's a match, that verification will have been confirmed and a recommendation for payment made. The same is true of taxi PPV licensees. The Transport Authority will be providing the database against which verification will be made, and that will precede recommendations for payment. The same is true for the occupational groups for which parish councils are the licensees. The parish council will be providing the list of TRNs for persons who occupy the occupations of barbers and hairdressers and market vendors and many other occupation groups that are specified on the website and in the brochure. And once those lists are provided, again, there will be a cross-reference between the applications for the general grant and the TRN that appears on those lists provided by the parish council. And once there is a match, again, then the recommendation for payment will be made.
What to do if you think you have been exposed or are experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19? Immediately call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In addition, you should stay at home. Don't go to work, school, or any public place. Do not use public transport, and avoid visitors to your home. You may need to do this for up to 14 days to reduce the spread of the infection. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
At a press conference on April 8, Prime Minister Andrew Holness explained the possible negative and positive impact of COVID-19 on the economy and the health sector. Mr. Holness said the positive outcome was the focus being charted by the government.
I want to place on your screen a matrix so that you can have an appreciation of what could be the outcomes if we go to any extreme. So on the right of the matrix would be the public health policies that government could implement. And there is a spectrum. You could decide that we're not going to do anything and allow the disease to spread, and hopefully the population will get immunity. Or we're going to put in the strongest control measures and slow down the spread of the disease. At the bottom of the matrix, we have the possible range of economic policies. We can say, well, this is going to pass. We don't have to intervene in the economy. If people lose some income, well, they have to depend on their savings, but the government is not going to take up its own, the resources that it has in reserves and spend. And we're not going to give any support to businesses. That's one set of economic policies that could be considered by the government, or the government could go to the extreme and say, we are going to go full in with all the resources that we have early in the game and try to have a counter-cyclical effect on what is happening. Now, clearly, if you take a lax approach to public health policy to say, let it happen, and you take a lax approach as well to your economic policy where it is weak and ineffective, then what you will have is a catastrophe. You will have your economy collapse, and it will be a prolonged collapse of your economy. If you go with a very strong economic response, but at the same time have a weak public health response, then you will have some growth, but it will be weak, and it will not be sustained, because you will constantly have the health problem affecting your economy. And if you go with a very strong health response, but a weak and ineffective economic response, you will still have a weak and slow economic recovery. So you can't go with the extremes on either. You really have to do the extremes on both. That is the best solution. You must go to the market, make a list, and shop by it. Do not stay longer than necessary. Use the sanitization stations provided. Avoid touching surfaces. Avoid crowds and standing close together. And use a mask or a scarf to cover your nose and mouth.
The Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries has responded to the impact being experienced by farmers during this time. State Minister Floyd Green outlines the measures being taken to assist farmers.
Be assured that our farmers are on the job. They have not stopped working, and there are plentiful supplies of local produce. We are also aware that some farmers who would normally supply the hotel and hospitality sector have had excess supplies of fruit and vegetables available for redistribution to local consumers, given the fall-off of demand from the hotel and hospitality sector. As a ministry, we moved as quickly as possible to assist with the redistribution process, and in so doing, we have provided and are intensifying assistance to those farmers to get their supplies to the main market. Ask farmers with the produce for sale to contact their RADA parish offices and the parish marketing officers. Farmers can also contact the Agro Linkages Exchange at 876-970-0838. We have met with and received commitments from major supermarkets to purchase additional volumes of produce. We have met with the agro-processors who, where possible, have increased their intake of items like pepper and scallion to be processed into mash. Juice makers have also committed to, where possible, utilize more local products in their juices, as well as to process for storage. Identify several buyers and distributors with access to cold storage facilities who have indicated their willingness to continue purchasing of agricultural produce from farmers, as well as assisting the process of purchasing produce at the farm level and distribution to final markets. As an immediate injection, $240 million will be made available to purchase excess produce from farmers, beginning with immediate effect. Working with RADA, farmers with excess produce have been identified. Purveyors would utilize the existing collection, storage, and distribution mechanisms to purchase produce from farmers and move into the marketplace, including large purchasers and communities. This is part of an immediate short-term response to bring fresh produce to market, minimizing the threat of waste due to the downturn in the tourism sector.
I want to express gratitude to the Jamaicans at home and abroad, as well as friends of Jamaica who responded with great enthusiasm to this telethon. Thanks to their kind donations, we are now able to contribute over $50 million. To be exact, $50,261,000 after conversion of multiple currency contributions towards procuring the personal protective equipment for our frontline workers. We say a big thank you to everyone who was able to donate. We appreciate you. Donations are still coming in, Mr. Speaker, and so I know we have exceeded the figure I quoted earlier because we are still counting.
Together we This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.